Hola, hola, hola. Hoy vamos a hablar del presente, el tiempo del presente. Today we're going to talk about the present tense and how to put verbs in the present tense. Okay? We're also going to talk a little bit about sentence structure because you need to know some sentence structure when you are creating sentences. So, el presente. These are verbs when you're talking about what happens, right? What happens regularly, or you can even use them to talk about what is happening right now. You can also use the present tense to talk about the immediate future. We do this in English too, right? We go, or I guess you'd say we are going instead of we will go, right? We are going to Denver on Friday. Okay, so the immediate future can also be used with the present tense. All right, so what happens regularly, generally, what is happening in this moment, and what is going to happen in the immediate future. Okay, these are all cases in which we're going to use el presente. All right, so el presente, the most important part here is the sentence, is the context, right? So I'm going to take a context. For example, let's take the contents of a dance. Okay, so first I have, in any good sentence, I'm going to have my subject. So we're going to say Nico y Carla. All right, so I have my subject right here. Here's my subject. And then if I'm following good sentence structure, the next thing I'm going to have is my verb, right? Right here, we're going to put our verb. All right, so we want to say that they dance. I'm going to take my verb, bailar, to dance, and I'm going to change the end so it's in the present. Bailan. And then I'm going to have my predicate, right? El predicado, the rest of my sentence. Nico y Carla bailan el tango. See? Nico y Carla bailan el tango. So I have my subject, I have my verb, and then I have the rest of my sentence. Okay? So our focus today is on this verb. How do we make this verb? How do we make it make sense in my sentence instead of just using the pirate verb that I find when I look up my word in the dictionary, all right? Because if you were to look up dance in the dictionary, you would get bailar, okay? But it doesn't work just like that because this would mean to dance. And I don't want to say Nico and Carla to dance the tango. I want to say they dance the tango. So I need to put it in the present tense, okay? Now, before you get super worried about this, usually people can figure out what it is you're trying to say. If somebody came up to me and said, Nico and Carla dances the tango, I would understand them. So if you went up to someone and said, Nico y Carla bailar el tango, they would look at you funny and then maybe try to guess what it is you're saying and say, oh, Nico y Carla bailan el tango? There might be a little confusion, but they'll probably figure it out in the end. So if this just seems to be too much, just understand that when things are in context, it's okay if you make little errors like the one I just did. Okay, so let's talk about conjugations in el presente, okay? So if you watched my last video, you will know that in Spanish, we divide our verbs into three groups. We have AR verbs, we have ER verbs, and we have IR verbs, okay? So we divide them into these three groups. The reason being because these three groups have different verb endings, okay? So I'm going to make this table right here, which I also talked about last week. We have our subject yo here, tú, we have usted and él and ella. This is why it's so important that you know pronouns, right? We have to know the pronoun if we know how a verb is going to end. Over here, we're going to have nosotros. We would normally have vosotros here, but we're not going to talk about that one. Ustedes and ellos and ellas. Okay? So, if I have a verb that ends in an AR, we're going to start with this group. We're going to start with the AR group. If I have a verb that ends in AR, such as the verb bailar, okay, the verb bailar, what we do is we take off the AR ending and we put on the ending that corresponds to my pronoun, okay? In the Spanish teacher world, we like to call this the chop and shop, okay? So we have our verb bailar. We are going to chop off this AR ending, and then we're going to shop for a new one here amongst our pronouns, okay? That's why we need to know what pronoun goes with what subject. So in my example of Nico y Carla, that would be down here with the ellos ending, because there's two of them, it would be they. Okay, so what are my endings, right? My endings would be, for yo, it's going to be an O, so bailo. For tú, it's going to be as, bailas. If my subject is usted, remember that's you formal, él or ella, he or she, it's going to just be the a. We're just going to get rid of the r, baila. If it is nosotros, it will be bailamos. And if it is ustedes, y'all, or ellos or ellas, they, it is going to be bailan. It works this way for all regular present tense verbs, and we're going to talk about ones that don't follow the rules next week. But for right now, we're just going to talk about what follows the rules. So this works for most AR verbs. If I have, for example, hablar, to speak, and I want to say I speak Spanish, I'm going to get rid of my AR and I'm going to replace it with an O, because if I'm saying I, my subject is yo, right? So I would say hablo. Yo hablo español. Or yo no hablo mucho español. Okay? If I have a different AR verb, such as trabajar. Trabajar means to work. Okay? And I want to say we work a lot. Once again, I'm going to chop off my AR. Think about my subject. Who's my subject? I said nosotros was my subject, so my ending is amos. Trabajamos. Trabajamos mucho. Okay? So, look at your ending. Think about who your pronoun is, and then choose the correct new ending, right? These are our new endings. Choose the correct new ending for that pronoun. Okay? So, if these are just the AR verbs, what are my other verb endings? Okay, let's take a look. Right, we are in el presente, but what if my ending or my verb ends in an ER? Okay, for example, the verb comer, to eat. If I want to say I eat, what am I going to do? Okay, well, once again, let's make our chart here. Remember our subjects, yo, tú, meaning you, usted, you, polite, él, he, ella, she, nosotros, or nosotras, if we're all girls, meaning we, and then we have ustedes, y'all, ellos, and ellas, which means they. Okay? All right. So I have comer. Once again, I'm going to chop and shop. That was interesting. If my subject is yo, I want to say I eat, I would say como. I'm going to replace the ER with an O. If my subject is tú, then I would say comes. Tú comes muchos burritos. You eat a lot of burritos. I mean, who wouldn't? Usted, él o ella, it is going to be an A, come. Ella come ensaladas para el almuerzo. If it is nosotros, my ending is going to be hemos. Nosotros comemos pizza los viernes. We eat pizza on Fridays. Comemos pizza los viernes. If my subject is ustedes or ellos or ellas, my ending will be en, comen. See, ustedes comen tamales. do you eat tamales? Okay. Or comen carne de res, do you eat beef? See? All right, this works for most ER verbs. Once again, there are always exceptions, but let's focus on the ones that aren't exceptions, okay? Another example of this is correr. We use correr a lot, to run, okay? Tu corres, do you run? Corres. The other important thing about these endings is in Spanish, your subjects are optional. And so I'm not always going to say a subject. I might just say corres, and then you have to listen to the verb to know who the subject is. So corres, it ends in es, so therefore you know my subject is to, so I'm saying do you run. Okay, important things to pay attention to. Okay, our last group are our verbs. We just did ER, we've done AR, right? We've done ER. What's the group we're missing? I know you know it. These are our verbs that end in IR, okay? For example, the verb vivir, which means to live, okay? I'm going to chop and I'm going to shop. By now, maybe you figured out that if my subject is yo, if I'm talking about myself, my verb ends in oh, correcto. Okay, so it'd be yo vivo en Colorado. Tu vives. See, tu vives cerca. Do you live close by? Vives cerca. Usted, él o ella would be vive. Mi mamá vive en Minnesota. Nosotros, this is where it's going to be a little bit different. Nosotros is imos. Vivimos en un rancho. We live on a ranch. Not really, it's a tiny ranch, but vivimos en un rancho. Ustedes, ellos, ellas, they would be en, viven. See, viven en España. They live in Spain. Viven en España. Okay, so once again, we chopped and we shopped for our new ending. All right, other verbs are going to change the same way. We have escribir, which means to write, escribir. Okay, I would chop off my IR. I would shop for my subject ending. All right, remember, it's like a math formula. I have my verb, mi verbo de pirata. I like to call it a pirate verb. And then I have to multiply it by my subject and my tense, right? So escribir, present tense, yo, there's my new ending, escribo. Okay, present tense, my verb escribir, my subject nosotros vivimos. See? And that is how we conjugate verbs, regular verbs, in the present tense. Okay, so let's take a look. Remember, when I look at a verb, there are multiple things to look at. Okay, so for example, I'm going to put desayunamos. A las 7. Okay, desayunamos a las 7. So first of all, this verb, desayuno, right? Do you know desayuno? Desayuno is breakfast, right? Breakfast, and then at 7. Okay, so remember when I told you our subject is not always written out in front. We have to look at this ending. So if I look at this ending, I see that it ends in mos. If my verb ends in mos, let's take a look at our chart. Remember that chart we made. Okay, where do you find the mos? The mos is always here. Mos, which means my subject is nosotros. So that means desayunamos, this ending tells me that this means, I'll get a different color in here. This means we. The mos tells me that we are doing this, okay? We eat breakfast at 7. Desayunamos a las 7. Okay? So we need to pay attention. Verbs are important. But once again, if you are producing the Spanish and you don't necessarily get it 100% correct, it's going to be okay. Somebody is usually there to help you out. All right? And you can just keep practicing. Practice leads to perfection, right? So take a look at the practice underneath this video and give it a try. And then you can check your answers and see where you need to keep working. Okay? Next week, we're going to talk about irregulares. Yay, irregulars. Hasta luego.